In the year 2013, my mother passed away because of cancer. As a result of her passing, I learned quite quickly just how fragile and limiting human life really is. It was my wake-up call. I knew right there and then that we had to reach for something better, for something higher than what our current existence as a species entails. And when I look at the US Transhumanist Party, at their core ideals, their Bill of Rights, their Constitution, I see an organization that is prepared to address those issues that I hold dear with radical but necessary solutions. And that is why I am a transhuman.
Hi everybody, Ira Pastor here. As a human, I'm prized for my erect posture, my large brain, my bipedal locomotion, my ability to form complex societies, and my ability to use tools. But I can't regenerate my limbs and organs like the newt. I can't revert malignant tumors into normal tissue like the planarian worm. I can't stop time like the Arctic Icelandic clam. I can't turn back time like the immortal jellyfish, and I can't rise from the ashes of death like the extremophile Deinococcus radiodurans. Top of the food chain, huh? For all these reasons and many others are why I'm transhuman.
Yeah, a lot of people are attracted to the transhumanist movement, to the promise of immortality through technology, but I don't want to live forever. No, I've studied the platform, and it's the only one I know of that is addressing the issues that my sons and my grandkids, my current plan for immortality, will have to contend with for the next 100 years and beyond. So that's why I am transhuman.
My name is Jose Cordeiro, and I am talking to you from Madrid, Spain, the land of Plus Ultra, because in Spain many of us believe in Plus Ultra to go far beyond where no one has been before. I am director of the Millennium Project, vice chair of Humanity Plus, and a proud technology advisor of the US Transhumanist Party and the ambassador in Spain of the US Transhumanist Party. And we are living in incredible times. And I like to say in the next 2 decades, we are going to see more changes than in the last 2,000 years. This is the best time to be alive. And I just published a book called The Death of Death, with the help of friends like Aubrey de Grey, Ray Kurzweil, David Good, and many other people, because we believe that we are going to transcend the human condition and we will have super longevity, super intelligence, and super well-being. Welcome to the world of the future. I am transhuman.
I am the very model of what you would call a transhuman, part singularitarian and mortalistic stropian. Aggressively, I'm changing all my body's biochemistry because my body's heritage is obsolete genetically. Replacing all my cells each month, I'm here just temporarily. The pattern of my brain and body is where there's continuity. I'll try to improve these patterns with optimal biology. But how will I do that? I need to be smarter. Yes, I'll expand my mental faculties by merging with technology. And with the new technology, renewable clean energy, remove our pathogens and overcome hunger and poverty. I'm singularitarian and mortalistic stropian. I'm combination of all those things, and that's why I'm a transhuman.
Hello, I am Bill Andrews. I'm the president and CEO of Sierra Sciences, a company that's focused on trying to find ways to extend lifespan and health span and to reverse declining health due to aging as well as aging itself. Anyone that's had their ears pierced to enhance their appearance, or had crowns put on their teeth to enhance their ability to chew food, or even to wear eyeglasses or contact lenses to enhance your vision. You're all transhumanists. That's what transhumanists are. So the transhumanists can go much further than that. The promise of transhumanism is that we can become smarter, faster, and enhance our lives in many, many ways. And that's why I'm transhuman.
We stand on the cusp of a new era, where amazing technologies are coming into the reach of ordinary people, enabling us to unshackle ourselves and our species from the age-old limitations that have plagued humankind. Let us win the war against disease, poverty, scarcity, petty limitations of the human psyche like logical fallacies and cognitive biases which fuel pointless interpersonal conflicts. Even the ultimate foe of death itself can be beaten back, enabling us to live lives of open-ended duration and open-ended potential. Join us, and we can win the universe together. My name is Gennady Stolyarov II, chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party, and that is why I am transhuman.
I started biohacking back in 2008, creating devices that could be implanted to basically become a cyborg. One of my main focuses has been the area of sensory enhancement and augmentation. That's one area of transhumanism that not a lot of people talk about, but I think it's very important to humanity eventually to be able to expand our senses into different spectrum and be able to interface with different sensations and stimuli to gain new insights and basically new understandings of the world around us. Enhancing our senses like this will not only expand our intuition, it'll also do a lot of cool things for the arts and humanities. You can imagine new forms of art that incorporate infrared and ultraviolet light or different frequencies like that. It's exciting.
My name is Kelma Ferreira. I am the Brazil's foreign ambassador of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. The transhumanism is a humanism. However, it goes beyond. It's a new humanism, surpassing Eurocentrism, environmental problems, and worrying about gender issues such as morphological freedom. Using reason, allied to science and technology, we can overcome inequality, our physical and mental limitations, and even the death. This is the reason why I am a transhuman.
I am transhumanist because I strongly value life and intelligence. I think we as intelligent beings deserve better than just vanish into the night. There is no fundamental law in the universe which should stop us from brighter tomorrow. I am transhumanist because I want to improve our cultural software, our ethics system way behind our technological progress. We're still divided by petty imaginary differences. We can save so many lives by just reconsider how we value things. Intelligent species should be free from biological and cultural chains, and with help of science, technology, and rationality, we can radically improve condition of our lives and extend degree of freedom every single intelligent being in the universe.
Hi, my name is Dan Elton, and for many years I was studying physics, and I was just interested in learning about the laws of nature and trying to understand the mysteries in the universe. But a few years ago, I really started to come to grips with our limitations as human beings, both physical and cognitive. And I also became much more aware that there's just an enormous amount of suffering going on all around us. And I believe that transhumanism has to be part of the solution to both of these problems. And so we are all transhumans to some extent, insofar as we have adopted clothes and wearing eyeglasses and vaccines. But the science that's coming out right now is showing that there's so many more things that are possible to augment our biology and improve the human condition. And I think if we all take a hard look at the science and really apply ourselves to the task before us, really great progress can be made. And that's why I am transhuman.
In addition to cybernetic implants, I've been dabbling in the world of genetics and experimenting with gene editing techniques like CRISPR. and attempting to augment my own genome. In the end, what I want is a world that is biologically fluid, where you don't have to get stuck with whatever genes you were born with. In the end, we want to develop tools that will allow anybody to make whatever changes they want safely and affordably. Speaking of affordably, that's something that's very important to a lot of biohackers that are also transhumanists, is to make sure that transhuman technology is affordable in the future so that everyone can participate in the future, not just wealthy people. My name is Rich Lee, and I am transhuman.
I've always been into science and technology, but I've had my fair share of losses. I've lost loved ones, family, and friends due to various things, cancer, accidents, but I am transhumanist because I want to live indefinitely. I want to reach past my limits as a biological, and I want to see the worlds of tomorrow, the horizon of tomorrow, and I want to see where humanity is from now and where we're going.
We're doing great. We're glad to be back. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. We are doing excellent. I have this weird green drink in front of me, which is called moringa root. It's from this Indian tree, I believe. It's going to give me a lot of energy today.
Steele, I think your microphone is very low, Lev. Are you having the same audio problem?
We need teleportation now. Is that better? I think that's better, right?
Yes.
Much better.
All right, cool. Yeah. If you could send me that moringa root, I would be much appreciated. I think that's what I needed now. Moringa root now. Moringa root now. That's what I really need. No, it's good to see you guys here. So how are we? What's going on?
Well, we were catching up, reading about our next 4 candidates.
Yep.
We got a nice roster here.
Yeah.
We've got Drillin, Matt Taylor, John Shakti, and Ben Zion.
Yeah. So you met them yesterday. You met some of them. You met John Shakti slightly just before Mr. Holsobel came on. So Mr. John Shakti is really interesting. He's basically an anarcho-capitalist type character. He has a UBI, but it's not a UBI in the way that we all think about UBI, which is cash dished out. It's more of this hostel idea where he would put people into hostels and give them free food, free food, free board, free stuff, but then send them on their way, and then so they get a hot meal and all this stuff. So it's a hierarchy of needs argument. You fulfill their lowest hierarchy of needs, and then you send them about their way. You've got the front runner / establishment candidate, or that's what he's being called, Johan Ben Zion. He has a Futurist New Deal platform. He's very successful Futurist New Deal podcast, which he's interviewed a lot of people, and he's got a lot of endorsements from a lot of different high-ranking and mid-ranking people. He's a very interesting candidate. And you got Matt Taylor, who I met. Very interesting candidate. Very big on big government. So what I'm really looking forward to in this debate is Matt Taylor and Jonathan Chakti really hitting head-to-head on this one, because they have completely different approaches to how they both assume that different health outcome policies and all the policies should be formulated. Matt Taylor's a very big government guy. Not that Johan Ben Zion isn't. Actually, Johan Ben Zion makes it very clear that he's running to the right of himself. He's probably a bit more of a Bernie bro than he's trying to make out at the moment, but he's running the right of himself. And Virillion is an interesting character. I never got a chance to interview him for his candidate profile, so no one's really seen him. We've seen him in the chat a little bit. He has his statement. He's running as an AI, which is kind of cool. It's kind of interesting.
I thought he was running as an extraterrestrial.
The space alien thing, I think that's a put down that was formulated from the Ben Zion campaign. I think he tried to run that because he said in a few different comments there that he that he has some alien species
right.
policies, but he's not an alien himself.
Well, on the transhumanist website, like that's his official platform on the U.S. Transhumanist Party website there. I mean, it's black and white. He's running as the first human-alien hybrid, like extraterrestrial hybrid.
All right.
And
there you go.
I actually loved his bio. Like the more and more I read, the more and more I loved it. My mind was totally blown. My mind was totally blown. And he seems like a small government guy. I'm not sure if he would call himself a libertarian, but when I was reading his platform, there was a lot of wisdom in it. So I think one of the great things I love about the transhumanist community is how inclusive it is and how open-minded everyone is and what good listeners we all are. And, he's in SAG and he won an Emmy. Vrillin won an Emmy. Did he?
Yeah,
he said he won an Emmy.
Yeah, he's done a whole bunch of stuff, and with the CIA and FBI. The only reason I said that is because he got into a fight.
Did he really though?
I don't know.
Those are some stats. Those are some stats. Being half alien, half human, winning an Emmy, and doing intelligence work. Like, where's the amplification on this guy? I mean, he seems like the dark horse of tonight. So if Kristen T. Harris was the dark horse of the last debate, Vrillin is the dark horse of tonight. So I'm very excited to hear the wisdom from Vrillin. And he seems like he had a lot of good insight into government.
Yeah,
and he seems like a nice contrast to the anarcho-capitalist alternative John Shatke.
Yeah. The only reason I said that is because they got into a fight on Facebook, quite a prolonged fight, and Johan Ben Zion called him a space alien, and he said, I don't know where you got that from. So, but and then he brought up the fact that he did have, like a interspecies, species alien platform thing. So
Ben Zion sounds like a jerk. Ben Zion sounds like a jerk. I don't know. Maybe he'll be nicer tonight. But maybe that's just what wins in politics. Maybe it's just a mud fight here, and everyone's swinging. But
that's why we don't get visited by the aliens. They see all the mudslinging that's going on Earth, and they decide to mind their own business.
Ben Zion's messing up the transhumanist party here.
I don't know. I think that's a bit harsh. He's done a lot of work. Probably a considerable amount of work, especially with the Futurist Nudity podcast, and trying to get all these different organizations to work together. But no, there's definitely some pretty cool candidates in there, especially policy wise. Gennady's done a great job to sort of make some broad views over both days. You missed all the fireworks in the second debate and the first debate. First debate, the detonation didn't cover that one, but the second debate, there was a lot of fireworks between Haywire and Ben Zion. It got down into a lot of low blow name calling and craziness, which is why they've been separated across the ocean of days. But yeah, no,
bring them together. I love Ben Zion. Listen, I love Ben Zion. He recently liked our page, 11 Joules. So moment of shilling, 11 Joules, break the rules. That is our brand. So trying to do a little bit of rule breaking here. I can't get away with doing a live stream and not break a couple of rules here. No, I love Ben Zion. I really appreciate all the work that he's done. Anyone that's elevating the dialogue here and spreading the word. Dealing with the pro-aging trans is the #1 problem transhumanists face right now. So, what we're doing right now, this is a warm-up, right? Because I think a lot of us, we know, I hope everyone knows, we're not winning the presidency here, right? This is us pooling ideas together, working on our chops, trying to elevate the dialogue here and finding ways to break the pro-aging trance. And that's sort of like the first game here that we need to win to even be able to win the Super Bowl. So Ben Zion is indispensable here, and I want to lift him up because I'm sorry, I don't want to knock him down or anybody down.
I really like what John said. The greatest problems are caused by propaganda stirring up hatred. So I think that the less hatred there's going to be today, the more we can come together over these mutually shared ideas, the better. And this is hippie Lev talking here, even if I'm not wearing my braids today, but I am drinking moringa juice.
Did you have a shave, Lev, by the way? Your beard looks shorter.
Yeah, it's, I did not shave. Unfortunately, it's going to get longer, but when it gets really long, it ends up becoming like a circle. So look out for that in the future if I ever decide to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going for the whole Jesus Christ thing in a way, but I don't want to get crucified, which is why I'm hoping that none of us crucify each other here tonight.
Give me a break. You're going for the Jesus Christ thing? Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm going to pour some cold water on that right now.
Give me a break. Give me a break. Break me up a piece of that Kit Kat bar. That's how it goes.
No, I like it. Yeah, the Jesus Christ thing would suit you with the hair and
that's anomaly.
I like it. I'm a fan.
We know a guy. We know a bunch of people that are like Jesus. Ali Alexander's a friend of ours. He's kind of like Jesus. We know a guy named Anomaly. That's his moniker. He's kind of like Jesus. Lev is kind of like Jesus. I think going for Jesus is a good way to go. Right?
Sounds like there's a surplus of Jesuses out there. That's good. That's always good because more Jesuses, the better. If all those guys became transhuman, I guess, the world would be marching onto a good place, I guess. You got transhumanist Jesuses everywhere. That'd be all right. Anyway, all right, yeah. So you're right, though. These guys, Johan, Jonathan, Matt, and Virillion, they have all really different views, really different perspectives on things, and they're a good mix for the day. There was, of some floating around of some nonsense that was being bandied around of that Johan Ben Zion had to go to the kids' table because he got separated from, example, Haywire and others. But he dismissed that language and he said, no, these guys are okay. They've got good platforms. So, so that's good. That's a bit of harmony there. So that's always good. But yeah,
who are his endorsements? Right now?
We're going to have two of them on. We're going to have Mr. Shoemaker on at the not the top of this hour, but half an hour after that, and we're going to have Dan Elton back on, and he's coming on soon, and that's his endorsements. Christian T. Harris, you can come on whenever you want. If you're watching the stream, come on now, because we can give you more time because he's not speaking today. See, like the last time he was actually a speaker, and so we could only give him a short amount of time because he was going to hog, hours. But after the debate, that was good, right? Because we were finished. Christian, if you're watching, give us a call. Let's go. We can talk to you now. But yeah, Dan Elton, who you met, and Jules, you brought it up before. You were talking about the pro-aging trance, and that's what Dr. Dan Elton was talking about last time, breaking people out of the pro-aging trance, because. It is fundamental that we do win this war against aging. I think. I class it as a war. I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think?
Let's not make it up. It's a fight. It's a rage fight. Maybe it's a rage. Maybe I'm going by the Dylan Thomas poem, "Rage Against the Dying of the Light" here. Because a war, it's like a war with ourselves, like Raging Bull, he's in war with himself or something, and we don't want it to be self-destructive. So that's the problem I have with the word war. I think that we want to avoid a war, no one wants to be in a war. But if it is, it kind of is. Hey, let's say what it is. If you want to fight aging, if you want to beat aging, you're at war with aging. It's a typical stereotypical thing for a politician to say it's a war on this, it's a war on that. And it tends, whenever the politicians declare war on something, it always seems to make it worse. Like the war on drugs, we have more drugs. The war on terror, we have more terror. The problem with the war on aging, I would be afraid of exacerbating aging somehow, just like making the whole thing worse, right? Like we should it'd be much better to start a war on jobs and money, right? I feel like if we started a war on jobs and money, like somehow I feel like the side effect would be we would have more jobs and more money.
Well, we do have a candidate who wants a war on money, Kimberly Forsyth.
There, you know, that's the kind of madness that just might work. You know, you never know how these things, you know, how these things pan out. But, you know.
I like the South Park episode with Russell Crowe where he wanted to fight cancer. He thought cancer was a physical thing that you could fight. So, I mean, it's kind of sad. Like, he got a guy with cancer, and he fought him to have a substitute. But I think that we could have a picture that I could even design if I get time of somebody punching death. You know, like the Grim Reaper, you know, punching the Grim Reaper in the skull, and that would symbolize the transhumanist war on death. Because we don't really have any cartoons of transhumanism. I mean, I guess people do draw, you know, different robot cyborg beings, but I don't really see that many preppy. I don't know if propaganda is the right word, because propaganda could be used both for good and bad, right?
It's all propaganda.
It's all propaganda.
Everything is propaganda. I'm a propagandist. You're a propagandist. We're all propagandists. Mainstream media is propaganda. Rebel media is propaganda. As soon as you start thinking about everything as propaganda and you're skeptical of everything and skeptical of the world and of yourself, it makes it a lot easier to listen to things and to look for the diamonds in the rough, right? A big problem with people, I find, is they're more likely to take bad advice from a good friend than good advice from a perceived opponent. And you want to be the type of person that can recognize good information no matter where it's coming from. Because the source of your information does not determine its truth value. And it's so common for people to defer to a relevant authority as their shortcut for whether something is even worth considering or listening to. They'll dismiss it that way. They'll say, oh, look at the source, dismiss it outright. Sure, sources should be considered, always. But I think that if you lean on sources too much as an excuse to ignore things, you could miss a lot of potential insight that, you know, for transhumanists who are problem solvers and scientifically minded, you know, you can't forget that Darwin came up with his theory of evolution by paying attention to anomalous information. He would pay the closest attention to the information that contradicted his theories or initial theories. And it was that process of conjectures and refutations, of consistent contradiction, that he was able to come up with what we now have as a very, very sound, strong theory of evolution. You know, in many ways we can say it's a fact. You know, people might debate how long we've been around, but
hey guys,
evolution is reliable.
Hey.
All right, so we've got in the house, we've got Dr. Dan Elton here. Everyone say hello to Dr. Dan Elton. Dr. Dan Elton is a Yohanan Ben Zion fanboy, aren't you, Doctor?
Surrogate.
Definitely, yes. So how are you guys? I actually have something I wanted to bring up to the community, which is I think that the U.S. Transhumanist Party platform should include a point on banning lethal autonomous weapons. And I think there's a lot of consensus emerging that there should be human in the loop with AI-controlled weapon systems. But there hasn't actually been a ban yet. There's a lot of discussion in the UN, but I think the U.S. and Russia haven't signed on to a ban. So I think the USTP should look into this issue. It's actually quite relevant right now because it'd be good to get this ban now before these systems are developed too much further. Because once the genie's out of the bottle, it's going to be
banning
harder.
it is going to do what? So the problem that I have with that is it's sort of like, so we ban that, and then China does it, and then we don't have it. That is the problem with tech. Is like you might want to be a mother figure to people all over the world, but they're just going to laugh at you and ignore you and do it anyway.
Well, there's a couple points.
Like how by force do you prevent
bans?
people
So bans have
banning it?
Bans sound very draconian and whatnot, but
Not draconian, just impossible.
Well, I disagree actually.
So how do you ban someone?
There are examples of bans that international treaties that have, for instance, chemical weapons have been banned, and
they're still used. And the problem with
they're only used by
they have a mind of their own.
Yes, but there's a severe cost to countries that use them. For in terms of they are shunned on the world stage, and for instance, Syria has got a lot of extra sanctions and stuff after they used chemical weapons. You
conquering
can't
countries are shunned as well.
And
like Russia recently went into Ukraine. People shunned that, but what did it do? They didn't care.
Yeah, when Saudi Arabia dismembered what's his face, that was banned.
Right, but these bans actually what they do is they halt the sort of arms race dynamic that can occur. They put so for instance, like before the ban on chemical weapons, the U.S. was actually developing chemical weapons. There's also been a ban on I think biological weapons. It really it can help a lot, I think.
It's
if
a good
there's
platform.
agreement.
If
there's agreement that
I just don't think
that these systems can be unethical.
Work. I just don't think it would work. That's one of those, I think, very...
But Jules, even if it doesn't work, do you think they should still attempt to ban it?
I mean, I think the point of having different candidates is different candidates should advocate for their unique platforms. But I think I will play the devil's advocate here. I will play the devil's advocate. Right? So if we want to basically do a big virtue signal, I'll do a big flex just for the exercise of devil's advocate.
Go.
Well, go ahead. I only bring this up just because I haven't heard anyone talk about it yet, and I know it's not on the platform. There's a lot of agreement about this, actually. I mean, and we're not talking about a ban on any AI system.
They're talking about having an AI president. People are talking about giving the government over to AI. So in what mental gymnastic mindset are you using to basically isolate this little thing while the same people are talking about give the entire government over to AI? It doesn't add up.
Who is saying that?
Add up. It's just not.
Yeah, because I don't agree with that.
This is just an easy virtue signal. But if you look at the transhumanist platform, a lot of these people, and I'm even open to this in the long run. I don't think it's anywhere close. But if you're going to outsource government to AI, right? If you're going to have police, AI police, and things like that, there are going to be scenarios when, like, what if lethal force is required to save people's lives from an autonomous AI, right? Let's say there's a hostage situation and you have an AI that sees it And we're talking seconds. Seconds are needed to save these hostages. And the problem with this kind of nanny mommy mentality is not only would you not be able to stop other countries from developing it, and you would make yourself and people you care about weaker, it doesn't even add up with the rest of the transhumanist platform. So I'm not sure if you came up with this or if this is like someone else's idea, but I just think it's, you know, it's very well intended, obviously.
Well, we have to be clear. I mean, I'm not talking about banning. So first of all,
no,
there's nothing.
You want to have people in the loop.
First,
want to have
of all,
a human
just
in
to
the
be
loop.
clear to the
And that makes
people,
perfect sense. I have no disagreement with that. You should have a human in the loop.
Okay, yeah. But
like
just
the ban is like
Jules,
a little try hard.
Jules, let him speak.
Well, that's the point is to, just to be clear to anyone who's listening, the current platform does not contain anything about putting AIs in charge of the government or anything. I understand. I think we have some candidates who talk about that, but I think I have to ask them. I certainly don't agree with handing control of the entire government over to AI anytime soon. I think that would be extremely dangerous anyway. In any case, but we're just talking about. We're just asking to have a human in the loop, and there's they can be set. Having some semi-autonomy may be useful, because like you said, these AI systems may actually be more ethical in the sense that they're better at targeting. They may not be so trigger happy as some of the soldiers we have out there, who we had those soldiers in Iraq who did the whole torture and everything.
Abu Ghraib?
Yeah, Abu Ghraib, yeah. And also there's been incidents of, a lot of collateral damage and firing missiles at weddings and stuff. So if we had AI doing targeting, I'm sure that could make it a lot more accurate and prevent a lot of unnecessary deaths and everything. But we're just saying there has to be a human in the loop. Then one thing that people don't realize is that AI weapons systems are actually weapons of mass destruction, because if you have 1,000 with, say, a UAV right now, if you have 100 UAVs, because they're remotely controlled, there's humans in the loop, you need roughly 100 people to fly all those. But if you have 100 fully autonomous fighter jets or UAVs, you only need one human to set them off. Or say, you could have 1,000 drones. One person can unleash 1,000 drones. So in that way, there's sort of like a threat multiplier, I guess you could say. And that's kind of what scares people. One of the things that scares people. The other thing is, these things could get out of control.
I definitely see your point.
We definitely already have dark. I would be shocked if we don't have swarm tech.
Oh yeah, certainly. There's a lot of research in that. And I'm not saying all that research is bad either. Just but there's an AI arms race going on right now between the U.S., China, and Russia, and.
What about this idea? What about this idea that AI, artificial general intelligence, is the last invention that Homo sapiens will ever make, simply because its intelligence will outsmart us and it will delete us?
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to that idea. A couple of years ago, I listened to the audiobook of Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom.
Yeah.
And I encourage anyone who's skeptical about the quote singularity or the threat of AGI should check out that book, because he really lays out the argument that these systems could be, because they're general purpose, they can learn how to improve themselves. They quickly will surpass human level intelligence. Yeah, and I'm very concerned actually about the existential threat of AGI. I think we need to invest a lot into AI safety, learning how to align the AI with human values.
What do you think
we don't know.
Elon
We don't know when this super intelligent AI is going to come, but we also don't know how long it's going to take to figure out how to make it ethical. So I think we should start researching that now.
What do you think about Elon Musk's Neuralink?
I think that's awesome. I mean, I think.
What do you think about?
It's hard for me to see
DARPA
how it's going to help with the AI alignment problem.
I'll tell you what I think. I think the reason why AI won't be a problem is because it will be us. As in, not everyone will merge with machines, but DARPA already created the machine-to-brain interface. You have Elon Musk trying to go into mass market with the Neuralink. People are going to be merging with AI. So that's how you'll have, like you say, you want to have humans in the loop with AI. So if you're talking about a ban on having autonomous AI, whether that's a government AI or killer AI, what I think you would be legislating is a requirement for cyborgs to be in the mix.
And I'm glad that Elon Musk is the one who's doing it right now, as opposed to some black project in China, which who knows may be happening as well. But
of course it's happening.
Yeah.
Of course it's happening.
Of course it's happening. But I'm happy he's doing it too. I'm happy we have a bit of a leg up with that guy.
Yeah, I always said. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I think it's an important way of sort of merge. I don't so it's still possible that AI could.
So we're gonna get Chris Don in.
Yeah.
He's gonna come in. Don't leave, Dr. Harris, Dr. Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought this would be a good debate to have him in on.
Mm.
Hello, Chris Don.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
I keep calling you Christian.
You can call me whatever you want. I appreciate you, Steele Archer. You do a lot of hard work. You get the right to call me whatever you want, good or bad.
I just keep getting mixed up. Anyway, hey, good to see you here. We're talking artificial general intelligence. We're talking, AI and the military, AI and DARPA, and I thought, hey, what a great debate to bring you in on, since this is right up your alley. What do you think? Are we gonna get wiped out or what?
I don't think that's really the case. I think that it all depends on what we do with it. Technology is a tool. It all depends on how we use it, and I guess that's a big part why I got into this race, is because I believe there's a good discussion that needs to be had, the benefits versus the cons and which direction we should go. And it sounds like a lot of people are ahead of me on this, because that's why there's AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is more like your Alexa and your Hey Google, things of that nature, versus full-blown AI might be a little bit more scary to somebody who allows something in their house, because it might seem more human. And I think that overall a lot of people understand easing in this technology, because there's a lot of people that might be shocked. But at the same time, I think it would be great for me to come home and talk to my house. It's like the Enterprise, right? Hey, what's going on? Tell me the news. Hey, Google, turn the lights on, turn on the TV. That's what we have with AGI. But one step further would be, something that's a little bit more self-aware. How you doing today, Kriston? Are you going to get your food that you generally get? How about this for dinner? And might even hold a conversation with you, ask you questions. How was your day? So
this is a good point, because this is what Mr. Shoemaker, who's coming on later, who's also a Ben Zion advocate, and he says this as well. He says he can't wait for general intelligence to start to take control of people's lives in the home and the house, to remind people of medicines and when to sleep, and did you do your washing, and all these home improvement stuff. That's what he's really looking forward to. So it's kind of a good idea. But yeah, on the military side of things, and on the so Dr. Dan, just re-explain your position. You want neuro weapons? What do you want?
No, I'm not talking about neuro weapons. So
what do you want infused into the platform?
Well, it's basically just I believe the USTP should have a point on their platform agreeing with an international ban on fully autonomous weapons systems. This would, like I said before, it would halt the arms race dynamic for developing fully autonomous weapon systems, which would be out of our control. That would effectively
just let the black ops dominate it.
Yeah, it's a good point, because the general point is there's a mix of policies. There's a range of options. There's the corporate world, there's the government world, and the government has a mix of acquisition through patents, and it also has military tech because it's in a general arms race with other states, other nation states, and stuff like that. And yeah, you're right. Just like nuclear weapons, as soon as they discovered nuclear weapons, they went nuts. The Soviet Union built 40,000 plus nuclear weapons, and the United States built 20,000 plus very highly sophisticated weapons. So they didn't exactly go light on the nuclear weapons side. They sort of went nuts, right? And this is
right.
The problem with an arms race, is that you have resources, and the thing is, like, these development costs, as Mr. Cadero would point out. For the Genome Project started at $1 billion, and it's heading towards $10. Okay, so building an AI arms weapon, it starts at $1 billion. It heads towards $10, and a team of 6 people in Mum's basement. I mean, this is an issue, right? This is a problem. And what about, I brought this up before in the show. What about, instead of doing that, what about developing? They talk about the grey goo with, out of control nanobots, and they say a way to control that would be have nanopolice that run around and zap bad nanobots before they can turn into nano goo that eats the whole universe. I mean, what about like a United Nations AI AI force, AI police force?
Well,
you have UN peacekeepers, UN AI.
We have. I mean, again, I say we can look to the ban on biological weapons and chemical weapons as an example. And as I said before, I think it's been fairly successful. But there's always a risk of rogue actors, especially as technology develops further and becomes more proliferated into and available to everyday users. I think it's something you have to think about a lot.
We won't be able to live as long as possible if we get wiped out by a bunch of rogues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the U.S. Transhumanist Party,
it's better to have a gun.
They do have a point on their platform.
It's better to have a gun and not need one than to need a gun and not have one. If you have a bunch of let's say we're developing this tech and there's a bunch of hostages. You've got a patrolling AI that sees a bunch of people and it has seconds to act. You're saying because there's no human in the loop, this sophisticated miracle invention that human ingenuity has spent so much time and resources to create, for some bureaucratic virtue signaling reason, is not allowed to avert a crisis and save lives because there's no human in the loop. That's like saying, let's create a second FDA to slow everything down because it makes me feel good.
Well, yeah, it's the danger is.
I'm sorry, that just is what it is. But,
no, well,
But
Yeah, no, it's a theoretically they can be more ethical than humans. Theoretically,
Just
but
effective.
they're not.
What do the ethics have to do with it? It's like you're talking about
Chris
the
Dollar, fix your
efficacy
microphone.
of saving hostages.
Oh yeah, so there's sort of a debate about this. Like, what does it mean to have meaningful human control? So you could say it may be fine to say send a robot in to rescue hostages, and if that capability actually existed, I don't think it does, but or will for a long time. But yeah. So I'm just bringing up this issue. You should look at the film Slaughterbots. Have you guys seen that with the drones? Because
I saw the
that's
Black
showing-
Mirror episode with that little little black robot that had pellets inside, which automatically went after whoever was stealing something from the warehouse.
Yeah, there's a film that was created by Stuart Russell, or funded by Stuart Russell, who's an AI expert, where they have these drones that go around and basically have little micro explosives in them, and target people and detonate. So that's an example of an autonomous weapons system that is sort of like a weapon of mass destruction, because you can unleash like a huge swarm of these drones. But it is actually, it is complicated, because in theory they could be useful for certain things. But people should check out that film.
It's a very interesting.
You were trying to say something?
Yeah, it's a very interesting subject. I think a lot of this all depends on how things are programmed. As well, it's always a good idea to have a strong defense. But I think being on the offense a lot of times, I think that we're too proactive. I think there's a lot of money to be made by the military-industrial complex, like you mentioned. We have all these nukes, and do we really need that many? Is it a waste of taxpayer money? Maybe investing in EMP, things like that. Also, I think that artificial intelligence has a lot of value, and even robots or even AI robots, because we can save human lives. However, the question is what happens once the robots start becoming self-aware? And I think that's when we're having more issues. Now, we were talking about facial recognition, AI. What about in the situation with twins, people who have very similar facial structures? Or there's a lot of different ethical routes we can go with this. But I think there's good and bad, and it all depends on who's wielding it and what their uses are. Like you mentioned in that movie, you can have swarm of drones and they can assassinate people, and they all are just basically flying bullets. And it is frightening to think of. I think that there's more of a positive future at hand. But at the same time, I don't discount the military-industrial complex's ingenuity on being offensive at the same point, and their eagerness to invest money in something like this, whether we use it or not, hence the nuclear warheads that we have.
Well, last time we were also talking about black projects and how many trillions of dollars from the United States has just gone missing. So regardless of whatever treaties we end up enacting, there's not going to be a stop to research when it comes to this stuff, I think.
Dr. Dan, why did you roll your eyes when he mentioned EMP?
I don't know. I don't know. I tend to do that. But I think it could. Yeah, the countries are going to continue developing AI, I think there. But the point is, you want some human control. Again, I'm not really an expert on this, but if you have fully autonomous systems, you can scale them up a lot more, because you can have basically one person controlling like a whole fleet of drones or something. So
like hackers with their bot farms,
or even with
yeah.
their
It will be very
studies. It's like
be
Magneto.
in the future, it'll be extremely cheap to just print out an army. You just print out these drones. They have weapons capabilities. You control them from your basement, and you have a whole army at your disposal. I mean, it's great if there's a zombie attack. I mean, it's not that great if you're just trying to survive in a normal civilian lifestyle. And I agree with you, Lev. There is a lot of disappeared money. There are a lot of black books. There's a lot of if you've ever looked through a government book on their budget, it's about that thick. I mean, that's just the Australian one, and the United States one. It's pretty thick, and there's a lot of numbers in there, and there's a lot of shady money going all these shady things. So you can technically ban it, but how enforceable that is because it's reclassified or it's deemed a civilian operation or they scoot around it, or as I always say, which I was trying to say before, is you outsource it to a place like China. You outsource cloning to China, or you outsource it to a country that doesn't have these rules, and you allow them to go. And so basically, like China is an outsourced country for manufacturing, but it's also an outsourced country for unethical science practices, right? Because there's no rules, no regulations, no Geneva Convention, no nothing.
And for pollution. It's an outsourcer for pollution.
So it's kind of interesting. So Xi Jinping goes to Mar-a-Lago. They have a little trade treaty. They work out some trade treaty, and next minute there's CRISPR babies popping up. I mean, do you think Trump actually cares about that? I mean, he doesn't care. He goes, "Oh, yep, just do it. I can't do it here in America, but you can do it. So go and do it. Quick, hurry up. Tell us the results." I mean, it's an outsourcing mechanism. So,
we also do that with spying with the British government. The British government is allowed to do certain kinds of spying activities on U.S. citizens, and America vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. I know that. Yeah, sorry, Tristan. Yep.
Well, I was just saying it's like sharing weapons information and technology with China and having them allowing them access to our databases. It's one of those things where some people have access to things and not, in black budgets. The big question is like, how do we solve this issue, and what are the concerns? I think AI is a great opportunity. There's a lot of great things with AI when we're talking, death machines and destruction. It's not a real happy topic, but I think as far as what we should do, I think that we need to be on the defense as far as Americans. I mean, they're already talking superhuman, super troops, enhanced humans. We got exoskeletons probably coming down the line very shortly. There's a lot of progress in between fully autonomous war machines, I think, and us going that route, but it might not be very long till we get there.
And the EMP grenades would be a great way to deal with the swarm. Like if you've got a swarm of robots coming at you, you got that EMP pulse, you got your ATV shields, or I'm pulling that from Neon Evangelion, but there's a balance to these things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like I remember during the 9/11 commissions, they and the Prism. When they were uncovering Prism, I remember there was a. So how all for example, all of the internet at the moment goes under the Trans-Pacific cable, and it heads up. So what happens is there was like a 14th floor, a fake floor built into one of these big mega buildings, and the Trans-Pacific cable came up. And they had a publicly accessible place where they said that all the data went through, but actually there was a fake 14th floor and it was split, and that was where the CIA was filtering all the stuff. So like when the inspectors came in, it said, "Oh, yep, that's the 15th floor, there it is." But actually there was a false 14th floor where all the data was being replicated and thing, because it was a big thing here in Australia. They did a big documentary about it in the government because it ended up going through the government, and some government people got caught doing stuff over the internet and stuff. It's kind of a big thing here. But it's kind of, you don't know what the government's up to at any point in time. They've got a lot of money and and a lot of time.
By the way, happy
Sorry, man. I
Constitution.
guess we're not banning those robots anytime soon. I guess.
No, probably not.
Yeah, but anyway, Dr. Dan.
That's okay. Don't beat yourself up.
Dr. Dan, yeah, do you want to expand on anything else? Do you want to talk about the candidates? Do you want to talk about anything else? I got to bring David Shoemaker in really soon. He's trying to come in. Do you want to talk about any of the candidates? Are you excited about seeing anything in the debate, the questions, the people? Matt Taylor and Virillion, they're kind of people haven't seen these people yet. I mean, Matt Taylor's very interesting. Are you excited to see anybody, hear anybody? What about the candidates?
Well, I think we should we should continue this discussion either on the Facebook or at some other point. Because it really should be discussed further. Really, the AI arms race, and if any kind of ban on, say, fully autonomous or something like that could sort of tamper down on this. Honestly, I don't really know these other candidates, so I'm just looking forward to seeing them. I haven't seen Brilliant or whatever his name is anywhere online. Matt Taylor as well. A lot of these are relatively new candidates. The other three. I don't really have much else that I'm specifically looking forward to, but should be interesting. I'll try to, I think we should discuss more these existential risks. I know the U.S. is the USTP is a techno-optimist party, and I'm certainly a techno-optimist, but we also have to be aware of the risk of technology, in particular existential risks, like things that can cause mass extinction or for instance, the gray goo that was mentioned earlier, the nanobots, self-replicating nanobots, or designer viruses, bioengineered viruses. I'd like to see more discussion of that, actually. So I may bring it up in the debate if there's a chance to ask questions in the chat. Otherwise, I don't have much else to say, really.
Well, yeah,
let's bring in.
Do you know Nick Bostrom by any chance?
Sorry, what?
Do you know Nick Bostrom by any chance?
I don't know him, but a couple years ago I listened to his book, Super Intelligence.
Yeah,
which lays out the argument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a fascinating collection of existential threats.
And by the way, Nick Bostrom thinks we should accelerate development of AI because he thinks that the near-term benefits are just so enormous that we're going to save so many lives. We should accelerate the development. We may actually need, even though in the longer term there's risks to AGI takeoff and the singularity and all that.
Well, what you're talking about is kind of the cheapness, the easiness in the future to create these systems, and the fact that there's a lot of competitive governments and some that are less transparent than others. And if you got some sort of international agreement, you would force that transparency out into the open of what they're actually up to. But yeah, you're right. It's going to become cheaper, easier, faster. Just like making an app, became cheaper, easier, faster, where almost anybody can make an app nowadays. I mean, whoever knew that one day everybody would just have their own app make their own app. I mean, you don't even need to learn to code. You just drop and drag all of a sudden. And that's where general intelligence is going, because you just copy and paste huge amounts of code. And if you have some of these Ethereum networks or these crypto networks, or you can transfer huge amounts of code covertly, and boom, there you are.
Have you read The Transhumanist Wager? Has everyone read The Transhumanist Wager? Has anyone read it? The Transhumanist Wager? Zoltan's book? Well, that's about, you know, a bunch of transhumanists trying to defeat aging, and let's call them the Amish oppressors are trying to prohibit that. And they become not only pariahs, but targets, right, to a majority. And so they have to use technology to defend themselves while they simultaneously have to develop these life-saving therapies. So, you know, no one likes talking about the need of weapons. Like, I'm a big believer. So I'm like an anarcho-capitalist, or I'm a right libertarian. Like, I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. I don't think there should be any gun laws. I basically think we should be able to own our own tanks and stuff. Just like, that's like pocket nukes. Like, I'm like pro owning recreational nukes is who you're talking to. Like, there was that 14-year-old who like got some uranium on the dark web, enriched it, and then I created a power plant. He could like power his neighboring city for like 10,000 years. He did that by himself. I think that's fantastic.
So the problem with that,
obviously, we need to keep eyes on those people, and we all need to, you know, we need to codify each other's behavior, because the government, you can't legislate morality. That's a delusion. But people can keep each other in check, which is, we want more of culture to be uplifting our mental health and making each other stronger and accelerating development. And we want each other to also be vigilant and to make sure like some guy doesn't come out of nowhere with a huge dark army, right? Because basically you have Jeff Bezos and Google both have standing armies, right? You have people make rumors about sleeper cells everywhere. Like, what's a sleeper cell? How are they funded? Like, I'm not sure if I watched too many Tom Cruise movies, like the movie Collateral. But the point is, you know, we are very low on the totem pole here. And we're talking about running for president of the United States. And we're America here. And America, we're loud. We got eagles, we got fireworks, we got big guns. And to come out of the gate and say, you want to put a ban on autonomous weapons, I just think it's a losing platform and extremely weak, especially if your priority is to cure aging and you're being realistic and it's not just a corner internet popularity contest.
Well, I definitely don't think people should be allowed to own nukes or any kind of weapons like that. The reason is because no, there's a lot of people out there who actually think that human beings are like a plague on the earth and should all be wiped out. There's a lot of people who would love to exterminate humans if they had the chance. You have these.
So that's why we need these weapons.
That's why that's why you need a ban.
Because otherwise, those will be the people that develop them, right? If you put a ban on it, you just sang the answer.
Well, you have to think about
If you put a ban on those things, the people that will develop them are the ones that think people are a scourge.
Well, take the case of, say, we're very lucky we can't take
it for granted.
Well, we're very lucky to live in a universe where it's difficult to build nuclear weapons, where you need to have a lot of resources, enriched uranium and whatnot. I think if people had nuclear weapons were easier to make, they would be going off in major cities all the time. Because there are a lot of people who are either psychotic or have some kind of they're in some kind of apocalyptic cult. Like, there was some kind of Japanese apocalyptic cult. I can't remember the name of it.
Shinrikyo.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. My memory is so shitty.
We did a video about
they were trying to design a virus to like kill everyone.
Yeah,
so these people are out
subway.
there. Like, look, I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment as well.
They were all credentialed like you.
I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. I think people have the right to defend themselves, but I think we also have to be careful how much power we're putting into the hands of individuals. And there is a limit to it, to what we should allow, I think, or what we should try to, where we should draw a line.
All right, Dr. Dan, I got to kick you off. We got to have
People
should not be running around
Maybe
with
we
nukes. People should not be running around with nukes. They should not be running around with, with bioweapons and things like that. No, we gotta, we have to be responsible here. We're trying to create life and extend it. We're not trying to destroy it.
Hey, Dr. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the pre-show.
Thank you.
And look,
let's bring on John.
I totally agree with you. I think this is a really important issue. But we'll bring Mr. Shoemaker on now, and we'll
let's hear from him. I haven't. He's in bio, I think.
Yeah,
so
and he wants AI for the home. He wants AI for retirees and all this sort of stuff.
Oh
so
yeah, I'm all for that. I think I have an Alexa. I think we should take conversational AI would be amazing. And
no, I really like this. You brought this up, and I'll have to make this a debate point. And we've got other people who are in the AI field who and we'll have an AI debate, I guess, and we'll talk about the ethics of AI, ethics of militarization of AI, the arms race. Is there an omega point at the end of it? I mean, there's some different, what are they called? Not eschatology, the other one. Anyway, and some people predict that once you hit a certain singularity, whether that be agricultural singularity or the technological singularity or the information age singularity, I mean, all societies will always advance to a certain point, and you're on an inevitable trend. Isaac Asimov tried to point this out with his character Harry Seldon, saying, doing this thing psychohistory. It's an interesting point. How do you box in AI? It's the big one. Isaac Arthur talks about this, how you box in AI, because if you think about how much an Einstein added to the world, or some other smart people, an Isaac Newton or something, I mean, you're talking about that times 10, times 20, times 30, times 40. So the amount of information and learning that you develop in seconds is enormous. Once you hit a point where AI is equivalent to a human, it's mind-boggling. How do you box that in? And I think one of the answers lies in the fact that you have to box it in by you have to box it in and trap its own intelligence somehow, because you can't program that. It'll unprogram itself. It'll become smart enough almost instantly to unprogram itself. So yeah, how do you do that? How do you hit that singularity point and control that? But going back from that, how do you stop terrorist cults and rogue governments and other lone wolf actors and depressed people? How do you stop all these people from accessing the super powerful code when it's going to be transferred on the dark web at the cost of zero, like to the cost of electricity, which can be done on a smartphone and
having it,
we should have an equilibrium in the ecosystem, right? So as people are creating, let's say people are maniacs who are creating bioweapons, you want an equally educated and enabled community that can rapidly create cures to the maniacs' bioweapons, right? If you have maniacs creating their own little hobby armies of bot swarms, and let's say they do this despite a ban, right? It's like putting a ban on guns and then we all have 3D printers. It's like a big farce, right? So wishful thinking counts for a lot. Hey, I'm a hopeless romantic here. I love wishful thinking, right? I actually really like even to try to face some of these problems and to try to actually solve them. I think we can do it. I think this is the most exciting time in human history to be alive. But when it comes to the terrifying nature of Pandora's box, right? That's what we are living in, that, right? And so when we're talking about all these new technologies coming down the pipe, it's like Pandora's box. And hope is not a strategy here, but a stable ecosystem is, and it is the responsible thing to do. And if you look at I don't want to start throwing terms around here, but we were talking about Isaac Asimov's The Foundation trilogy and psychohistory. The reason why that's not realistic is because of chaos theory. Right? So even with perfect information, you couldn't predict the weather more than a week. And that's because of the nature of emergence. Chaos theory is about the study of randomness and complexity. You know,
that's his idea with the mule, right? That's his whole argument with the mule, right? That's chaos theory.
I will have to be reminded about the story of the mule.
So basically, like, you know, like you were saying, like Harry Seldon, the main character who wrote, who founded the First and Second Foundation in order to save the Galactic Empire. He you know, the one of the first foundation was on a planet called Terminus, which was in some backwash of the Empire, and the Empire had stood for about 12,000 years. It was really strong, and this guy had said, hang on, if I look at psychohistory, you know, it's going to collapse in about 500 years, and there's no way of unboxing it. And so Harry Seldon had predicted, up until this point in the book, Harry Seldon had continuously predicted all of the events, and one of the events was that Terminus was now starting to be challenged and become a rival to the galactic core as a power. And basically, Harry Seldon had said that the elite in Terminus that were at the Foundation, which had all the information, and it was because it was a bunch of elite scientists who were building a Encyclopedia Galactica with all of the information. That it's because the original idea was that the Empire would collapse, they would enter a 30,000-year dark period, and then the Empire would be reborn after that 30,000 years. And Harry said, hang on, if we just build a giant you know, Encyclopedia Galactica, we can just stop that whole 30,000-year dark period thing, because they won't have to relearn all the technology. And so you just skip that and you go back to refounding an empire, and it's back in 500 years and you can have another 12,000-year empire. The mule was chaos theory. He comes in, and Harry Seldon said that there was going to be a breakup between the Terminus, the emerging new empire, and the old empire, and all the traders in between. They were going to have a war. Now, the mule comes in, and he's one person, and he had psychic powers. He had mental powers to manipulate people and all that sort of stuff. And he ended up changing the course of history on his own. And Harry Seldon said that that's impossible. No single actor could ever change galactic history. It's all done en masse. And that's his argument on chaos theory, saying that anything could happen. So it's an interesting idea, but Isaac does address that.
That's fascinating. And to continue, chaos theory, the study of complex systems, there's another book that is from this school, and it's not a school, it's like a discipline, because you have chemistry, you have physics, you have biology, you have chaos theory. It's one of the reasons why we're able to even create and try to create AI. It's one of the reasons why we have supercomputers right now.
Dr. Dan, I gotta kick you, Dr. Dan.
That's fine.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming in.
The way complex systems work. Well, Dan, before you go, I want to hear this. You have to, if you try to order a complex system too much, you weaken it.
Right.
If you try to deprive a complex system of stress, you weaken it. And bans are a form of trying to order a complex system. So you actually weaken the anti-fragile system and make it more vulnerable to breaking. The way you actually strengthen an anti-fragile system is by exposing it to the maximum amount of stressors that aren't too stressful enough to break it.
Okay. I don't find that. It's a very abstract argument.
No, that's what it means to be anti-fragile. But
as far as AI safety, yeah, Ben Goetzel talks about distributed AI. I agree that distributed development is important for AI safety, definitely. But as far as the other stuff, we can discuss more later. I'm gonna tune out.
Thank you very much. Keep watching the show, Dr.
We
Dan.
live in a democracy.
Hello, Mr. Shoemaker. How are you?
Hey, hello everyone. I've been watching for a bit and really been enjoying some of this. It's quite an interesting discussion. Hello to everyone who I haven't met, which is everybody but Steele.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So there's a couple of comments there that I really like, and I hope I have the names right. Jules. I liked your comment about we're here trying to create life and restore it, talking about not being here to destroy life. And of course, that's what U.S. Transhumanist Party is all about. I'm a radical life extension advocate, so that's clearly what I'm all about. And the one thing that I really wanted to inject into that conversation is I think that's maybe our best step forward. You know, we can all agree on all of the perils that are out there. I like to focus on the promise as well as the perils. But when people really catch what's going on with radical life extension, when they start to value what life is, that changes the game. And some would say, well, there's people that will never be able to get that. And never is an awful long time. You know, we've seen so many things change down through history, things that were once commonplace that are either obscure or gone. I'm hopeful. I too am a hopeless romantic that wants to work towards that kind of future.
I think that's really well said.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, working with what we have today as far as basic things that people can get beyond, you know, a good diet and exercise, what would you say for people who are, let's say, in their, I don't know, like 40s, 50s, like in their middle age? What are the things that they could grab onto right now that maybe not talked about as much in the media that they could use to extend their life longer?
Oh, yeah, excellent. I'm a Ray Kurzweil fan, so I would suggest starting with his books, reading his books, and see if you can get a handle on his 3 bridges to immortality. And Bridge 1 is exactly what you're talking about. Bridge 1 is doing all those okay? Get plenty of sleep, drink lots of water, take your supplements. My mom was a big one for daily vitamins, but do all those things to be healthy. So when people ask Ray Kurzweil, well, taking all those supplements make you live forever? He says, well, of course not. But the idea of the graduated bridge concept is Bridge 1 is to take you to Bridge 2. And we're starting to see some of those kind of technologies becoming available now. So you were kind about the ages. I will say that in a few days, I will be age 70.
Wow.
Okay?
Happy birthday.
All right.
Kurzweil.
Happy birthday.
How old is Kurzweil?
70, geez.
Happy birthday.
I am an advocate of Bridge 1. I have had some treatments for Bridge 2, and I look forward to Bridge 3, which maybe is coming nano age, or who can tell. One of the things about the exponential rate of scientific advancement is there may be a technology that's off my radar, off your radar right now that might be a terrific breakthrough. So what would I say to people that are in their 40s and 50s? I think first off, I would say, get real about what your future is going to look like if you stay on the path that you're on right now. It's a very predictable end game. Call it, I come from the computer world, call it the default programming. If you go with your default programming, then the same will happen to you that's happened to everybody else. Actually, people that are in their 20s and 30s are best to start with this. It's like investing. If I invest $1,000 a month and you invest $1,000 a month, when we're both 100 years old, who has the most money?
Well, whoever invested earlier has the most money.
Depending what they invested in.
Exactly right. So investing in your health, it's the same way.
Yes. And I think...
Kristen, I'm curious what you weigh in on radical life extension. I haven't heard you talk much about that, and I have heard a lot of things that you have said that I really like, so I would just love to hear you talk about radical life extension a little bit.
Well, I think that life extension as an opportunity should be a right for everyone. Whether or not that happens is up to us, and the debates we're having these very days. That's why the conversations we're having probably within the next few years is very important. And I think it would be great. I think that, first of all, like you mentioned, the first step of taking care of yourself, exercising, healthy, always taking a look at different ways, whether it's through brain enhancers. There's a lot of smart pills out there. There's a lot of great new tech along the way. I think that taking care of yourself and staying healthy mentally is the very first step. And then from there, let's take a look at the different options which science allows. I think that cryonics is coming along the ways. Now, do I want to freeze my own body? No, I'd rather be able to live in this meat suit as long as I can. Would I like to download my consciousness? Maybe I would. I think these are all options people should have, and I think there might be other options of creative minds that have yet to come up with some great ideas out there. But I'm all for life extension. I wish I could live long enough to read all the books in the library. I'm all about a sponge and getting all the knowledge, whether it's ancient history, symbolism, everything from current events, sports, politics, just. And there's so many different variations of history. I can tell you that our history books are different from, let's say, China or Russia's history book and their take on things. And you can't get a real understanding of everything until you take all the information in to take an educated, guess. And that's why metadata is so important. And I talk about these things with AI and why we should be getting paid for our metadata that they take from us. That it's very useful for predicting outcomes and being able to understand things, especially for AI. And I think that for me as a person, I love knowledge. It's very important. And I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit when I make a mistake, and I'm willing to improve. That's one of the things that makes somebody maybe a good journalist or a writer is their ability to retract and correct mistakes. And that's something you don't see in the media these days. But I'd like to live forever. Why not? I think that if I can live to be another I'm hoping to live at least to be 120. That's my goal.
What do you think would be some of the best moves to unchain medical innovation?
Well, I think nano. Are you asking me or Shoemaker?
You. I'm asking you.
There's a lot of opportunity for nanotech, and I think repairing and AI as well, in combination of the two, AI being able to diagnose health issues, ways of repairing tissue, nanotech. I do believe in natural options too. Obviously, doctors have to know Latin because they have to know all the origins of the items in their medicine that they give people. There's a benefit to natural items, but there's also a huge benefit to nanotech and a lot of technology coming down the road. Like I would love to be able to just take a glass of nano juice and have it restore my age by 2.5 years, which a recent study showed. That'd be a great option.
Is nanotech regulated? Would that be regulated by the FDA?
Oh, this is a good question. As far as regulation goes, obviously when it comes to these things and everything else, the system we currently have set up is through the FDA. So that's something at this time that's unavoidable. I wouldn't mind seeing a private company doing it. This way we can fire them if they do a bad job. Unfortunately, you can't fire the government. So
I've got an update. I got two things to say. Kriston, I got to kick you off in about 5 minutes. Then we're going to bring on Jonathan Shatke. Thank you so much for coming on. The other thing is Virillion has just sent us a message. This is some breaking news. So he says, message from Virillion. Due to family concerns, I will be unavailable to attend the debate tonight. Please announce it. So Virillion's out. That's it. Virillion's gone. Can't see Virillion. That's unfortunate. So it's down to Ben Zion, Mr. Shatke, and Matt Taylor.
I'm out my first alien sighting.
Well, he
half alien.
Yes, awesome.
Well, I was hoping. Hey, can I ask you guys a question? Mr. Shoemaker, can I ask you a question? And what aspects of transhumanism do you think can advance and fix and repair the erosion of the Constitution? And
well, if you're asking me, I'm certainly not a constitutional scholar.
Oh, no, not at all. I was just asking. Because obviously there's many benefits in technology, and there's a big umbrella. I know transhumanism mostly focuses, but I guess that's a general question. That's for everyone. It is Constitution Day, and maybe not everyone's a big fan, and we should, they may not like everything about it, and that's why we can lobby to change it and go to our politicians. But if transhumanism could repair certain aspects of the Constitution that are being eroded right now, whether it's freedom of speech, whether it's the 4th Amendment, 2nd, 10th, 5th Amendment, what would you guys say would be your answer?
I don't think that falls under the transhumanism purview. I think the transhumanism is essentially whatever works. And I think a lot of people in the transhumanist community, they're thinking about how to solve a very specific problem. And that's why it's, I wouldn't expect a lot of transhumanists to also be polymaths, or, I imagine a lot of them are, but when it comes, and they're not all American. So when you're talking about constitutionalism, Steele Archer here, he's in Australia, he's hosting our debate here. So the thing about the Constitution, I actually think if we were more constitutionalists, that it would accelerate things. But this requires a conversation on the nature of complexity, chaos science, chaos theory, decentralization, competition in the market. You basically, all these feel-good bands and things like that, it's like let's say we could be sprinting on a track, and instead with every band we think of, it's like, let's add an inch of molasses to the track. And it's like we have inch and inch and inch, and it's actually like several feet, to the point when it's like we're in a giant pool drowning in molasses. Not only can we not be sprinting forward, but we'd have to deal with the glut that slows us down. And this direction of centralization is, I think, and this is how I think the debate should be framed. I think that all this centralization is a gamble for insider elites to create accessible technology as soon as possible, like in Venezuela, where you have people starving to death in the streets, and you have people who are not only mega wealthy, but mega connected, are able to go there for special therapies and special treatments. Now, if you want to say, no, it's the opposite, if you want to say my position is that, I think that would be a productive frame to debate, as in it's either the people that disagree with me that are trying to create that elite insider class, or it's people that disagree with me that want to create that, or the people that agree with me that want to create that. But to think there is no potential for the peril of an elite insider class is blind. And I think we could really elevate and accelerate the discussion if we realized that there is more than one way to skin a cat. There is more than one way to create this technology. And one way is going to create it for fewer people. And I think that path would be appealing to the oldest and most connected wealthy people. That's cynicism talking. I think it could just be incompetence and ignorance, and just like a mindless direction of like, government wants bigger government, and there's no one person at the wheel, right? But it's just we move in that direction of bigger government.
All right. So Jonathan Chatkey, if you're listening,
smaller government, I think, could accelerate everything faster.
Jonathan Chatkey, if you're listening, call in now, and when he comes in, we'll kick Christian. Thanks so much, Christian. But stay around until he does, if he does. Mr. Shoemaker, we were talking before about AI, right? And you're an AI optimist. You want longevity and all this.
I am.
You want AI in the home, right?
I want AI where it can serve the people, the best that it can. And right now, I draw a distinction between narrow AI, which is something that does one thing or one very, narrow focus well, and then AI that is general intelligence AI that's more on par with us humans. So the kind of AI that I think where we can make the most gains in the soonest is narrow AI. And we've seen that with Watson. We've seen that with the AI that's the Go champion. We've seen that with AI that's coming along to be able to read radiological reports, things of that nature. So we're defined down into one particular area. On a closer basis, though, I want to make this relatable to everyday people like me and perhaps you. And what does AI mean to us now? You know, what gets the press is things like Alexa and things of that nature. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I'll just start with, you know, the cell phone that's in your pocket or sitting on your desk or wherever that might be. I remember the time when a telephone only did one thing, and that was allow you to talk to somebody else. Now I use my telephone probably the least amount for that purpose, okay? I remember when telephones had wires. The telephone, the smartphone, with the AI technology that is at a very fledgling state inside it, has greatly increased our capabilities as individuals. And then tying that into the cloud and with new AI processing chips and so forth that are coming, I see it in the very close future, the kind of AI that I think might start to wake people up to what AI can do for themselves. And when I was talking with Steele before, I talked about a lot of the drudgeries of daily life. I am that radical life extension guy I was talking about. So I take quite a lot of supplements. I take them on a rigorous schedule throughout the day. I would like my AI to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, David, did you take that?" Or, you know, "How long has it been since you've been tested for that? What are your blood levels? You know, should you readjust this? Should you drop this?" These are all things that are not in the distant future. They're not about things that we can talk about in the, you know, the someday and gee, I hope that it will happen. These are things that we can start to do now and start to move forward now. So yeah, Steele, I'm very bullish on AI, especially narrow AI and maybe what I would call personal AI.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris Dunn. We'll talk to you either in the post chat or in the comments or wherever we see you next. It's been a great pleasure having you on, and thank you for coming on the pre-show. And been a great addition as always. And we'll see you. And good luck in continuing your campaign, Mr. Jonathan. Thank you so much. You've been great.
You guys have a good night. Shout out to Johan Benzain. Good luck, and John, give him hell too. You guys have a good debate.
Well, thank you.
And you know, appreciate you as always, Steele Archer. You actually do a fantastic job, and I'm always impressed when I watch your interviews and by your knowledge. In fact, I've started listening to your show, so I think other people should as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The encouragement it means a lot to me. So thank you very much. And you know, you're in broadcasting. I'm in broadcasting.
It is what it is, and you rock. Guys, have a good night.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good night.
Make sure you check it out.
Kristen.
All right, John. Hello. Hello. We'll only got you on for a little while because Mr. Holsopple is waiting in the wings, and you are going to speak later on. So I'll only give you a small amount of time. But how are you feeling?
Well, I wanted to make sure we had no problems with echo and stuff like that.
Sure.
I wasn't. I'm looking forward to this debate. Yohanan Ben Zion has been, vociferous critic of every other candidate that he can think of. You know, here he's going to get his chance to answer these questions. And we'll get a chance to answer the questions too and be a bit of a contrast to him. Jonathan is my name.
I'm excited for that. Yeah. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you to bring the heat. Bring the heat. The light heat. Some light heat.
Well, if you've been following my posts in the U.S. Transhumanist Party Facebook group, I've been trying to get input from the party about what they think can be used as a solution to the very real issues with implementing some of the party platforms. You know, if we can't get those issues addressed, it doesn't matter how nice our thoughts about them are, it isn't going to happen. Unless you can come up with $15 trillion in additional GDP, it doesn't matter how much land you offer to people to use. You're not going to come up with the money to fund anything. Well, you know, you won't be able to fund. Hi, Kenneth.
Hey, hey there.
Hey.
What's your name?
This is Kenneth. He's my 3-year-old son.
Campaign assistance.
Usually politicians go out and kiss babies, and you have a baby right here to kiss.
There you go. And that's a lot of books. So are those all? Those are books behind you, right?
Yeah. This is these are. I read all of these to do the coursework on them. Everything from nuclear physics to statistics and Fourier series and you know, physics. I spent 20 years.
Should not be sleeping on that. Transhumanists should not be sleeping on that. They should be listening to all the candidates. I keep hearing Ben Zion's knocking everyone down and boasting about his, what is it, a land dividend? It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm not the quickest with these things.
What do you think? Is that fair?
What I'm interested. Yeah. What, John? If I could ask you a question, you started out talking about the platform. And is that, you know, I read your candidate profile, yeah, which I found interesting, but I was just curious. So what parts of the platform do you not agree with? You know, me being a transhumanist party member for years, I voted on all those and I had my say in them. So I'm just curious.
My feeling is that the government interference in the healthcare market has caused the mess up that we have now. And so more of government interference with a universal healthcare program from the government would just compound the error. So there's the other...
Hey.
And the other situation that I have an issue with is the UBI. Well, I agree with it in principle. If our productivity allowed that, and we really did have an issue with employment because of robotics taking over, well, that would be a lot different than a situation where we have 3% unemployment and where
so those are the two basic things that you disagree with.
That's it. Other than that, I am in full accord. The idea of
so you would
clearly
if you were the
defining
presidential candidate, if you were the presidential candidate, then you would represent the whole platform or only the parts of it that you like?
I would represent the whole platform as the presidential candidate. That's the platform that we as a party have agreed on. I personally think that the country can neither afford nor is it a good idea, universal free health care. But I believe
you're being upstage, John.
Make that decision.
Kenneth, you have to go take a bath.
and Daddy
This
had to
reminds
talk.
me of a viral moment when someone was broadcasting, and there's like a famous viral moment when someone was broadcasting, and their child comes in and upstages, and and everybody loves it, and everybody loves it.
Well, that's what we're doing this for, right? It's not. I probably, even if I get life extension, will still be the broken human being that I am, with eyes that, you know, are going to need some sort of fixing somehow, with, you know, a lot of work to make Jonathan Shatke Ubermensch.
I'm counting on it.
But he's the future, okay? He's young. He could get gene therapy now that would express during puberty and be a completely different level of human. Okay?
Well, you might want to be careful. I would not advise you do any genetic stuff on young kids. This is something Lev and I have spoken about. People doing hormone and gene therapy on young children. I think that's not.
Mr. Shatke, have you got anything finally to say? Because you are speaking later today. I gotta get Mr. Holstoppel on, but it's nice to see you. Virillion is out, by the way, so you're not going to get to debate Virillion. That's breaking news.
Oh,
it's
heartbreaking
news.
Make it lively. Well, that'll shorten this up a little bit.
John, thanks for answering the questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to straighten that out for you.
There's one.
I have family that was severely impacted by Obamacare. You know, it's the sort of thing where.
Had Obamacare been in place when my wife was tragically hurt in an accident, she probably would have been died. When my wife was tragically.
Hello? I missed that from an echo. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, echo.
No, what?
Anyway, we've all been hurt by all different forms of healthcare, whether it be Obamacare or what preceded it, or I was in the military healthcare system for quite a number of years, and I can tell some stories there. But anyway, I think we would all like to see healthcare improve, even if we come at it from different standpoints.
All right, Mr. Shatke, thank you so much for coming on the pre-show. We'll see you in like 10 minutes or so. Right now, we've got Mr. Holstoppel. Thank you so much. Good luck in your debate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Holstoppel, welcome to the Madhouse.
Yeah, the pre-party here. Yeah,
welcome to the party.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I've heard that before. That's my slogan. Is it Jules? And I'm sorry, your name is?
Lev.
Lev. Okay, great.
How are you, Mr. Holstoppel?
And hi, Charles.
Charles, please. Hey, how are you? There's a guy with some good questions.
Nice to meet you again, Charles.
Yeah.
How was your debate, Charles?
You know, I felt like I got it. I got through it. Hopefully, I didn't chase anybody away, and brought some unity. Is what I always try to do, as you know. So, yeah, I got a few positive feedback. I mean, my son said I did a good job, so that's, you know, fighting for the family, you know. So
that means a lot. That means a lot. I know that means a lot.
Yeah.
Good feedback from the family.
Yeah.
Well, last time when Charles showed up on the screen, I really wanted to ask him this foreign policy question. So I think finally now I get my chance to.
Sure.
So it is this. So regarding foreign policy, what approach should the United States have to powers like Russia and China invading, annexing foreign nations, like in the case of the former's invasion of South Ossetia and Georgia and the Crimean Peninsula?
You're saying what should our stance be? Should we intervene? Should we send troops or
Well, yeah.
No, I don't think.
In the case of countries invading other countries, where would you say the limit would be? Like, how many countries need to be invaded by other countries for a power like America to have some responsibility?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, and any real national security question, I always defer back that I would want to know more about exactly what's going on and the reasons that it's going on. And I don't think we actually know it. In the case of Russia, I think that they are an expansionist nation, similar to the United States in that regard. So I think we have to police our own actions at the same time as those. But I think the democratic principles that we carry forward and we try to identify in other nations, I think we need to protect that. We think we need to do that on the world stage and with as much transparency as possible, to where we can, put some teeth into the United Nations and get the people in every country talking about the same thing, to where we're not just going through a nationalistic approach. We're actually talking about issues that affect each other, that go across those boundaries, that we're all within this same fragile atmosphere, and there are ways to get along better. So there's a lot fewer casualties in this decade than there were in past decades, and that's been the case. We're causing less and less death, militarily anyway, but through. It goes from, there's a lot of people dying from aging. There's a lot of people dying from disease. There's a lot of people dying from other causes.
But I personally don't think that that's an accident, that there are fewer deaths since we have Pax Americana, for lack of a better word. On a personal note, friends of ours who are living in Latvia, people I know who are living in Lithuania, they count their lucky stars that a nation like the United States exists in this world. Because they see what happens with other nations, where you get friends who were smuggling drugs into Russia back during the Perestroika time. I'm talking about Putin and his friends, of course, getting into power, getting all of their friends various positions in the regime, and then basically having that same expansionist policy where when the people in Russia are running out of supplies, are running out of food, are getting trash from the big cities dumped into the smaller towns, and we have relatives in Russia, as soon as Russia goes to war against whatever, it doesn't matter. What are we going to war today? Oh, we're going into Ukraine. Great. All of a sudden, you completely forget about all of your troubles. So that's where I see a lot of this expansionist mentality coming from. The people themselves are letting it happen, but the people who have the potential to get invaded, they love the fact that America is as strong as it is and has all those military bases everywhere it happens to have. And at the same time, just so you understand that I am no war hawk, I want to do whatever it is in our power to get rid of the manipulative power of the war hawks who end up profiting from war that is absolutely useless. And I think those two things must be balanced in a good way.
I think you and I have a lot that we would agree on. I'm a veteran. I'm not I'm not a hawk or a dove, but I would patrol the area with teeth and claws. Yeah.
Oh, that was my question. Thank you.
Oh yeah. So what else? You guys been having fun?
Yeah. So
well, I'm just happy. Go ahead.
You were talking about foreign policy. Last thing I heard, you were in the military. So that is a good question, Lev, to level, because that's and I think how much of that, how much of that had an influence on you on the 222?
Well, I was a medic in the military, and I had the option of what job I did in the military. And I chose medic, one, to stay out of Southeast Asia in the field, where Vietnam was still active, and that would have put me in a MASH unit, something that I could contribute back. But the 222 came about, through, there's a little physics in it, there's a little bit of philosophy in it, and I've just spent my life trying to figure out some way that I could get a consensus of people that said, hey, yeah, this is what we should do in our own best interest, whether that be in scouting or in the Army or anything else that was organized. When I was a fire marshal on my floor of the high rise back in the office. So it's a natural instinct for me to try to get everybody through the needle. And if some people that get in, some people clog the needle up and you got to yank them out of there. If we can get them through, that's fine. But we have to act as a unit. We have to identify what the obstacles in our way are, and we have to address them as a civilization. And if some countries aren't on board with that, neither is everybody else. So I think we need to maintain a strong direction with good ethics and with people's interest at heart, and that's what will get us through. That's what inspires me every day to get it through. So, and all I have is one day at a time. And I would love to live forever, but I want to live as richly as possible.
Let's get you to 200. Let's get you to 200.
Well, I come from a line of centurions. My mother's she's 103, and my grandfather was 103. So.
All right, we're going for 200. All right, that's it. That's what we're going for.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Hey, Charles, this is David. I just want to say it was great to meet you out at the California Transhumanist Party event. It's nice to meet you in person.
Yes, David.
And it was great to talk with you about, it was great to talk with you about 222 there, which I'm a fan of. Can you relate 222 to the broader topic of radical life extension? You started talking about, living a long time there, and I suspect that there is some connection between your ideas on radical life extension and 222.
Sure. Yeah, let's just take 222 and say it's the enzyme that started life, the amino acid or whatever that started this life going on. 222 is a requirement of life, right? So if we take AI and we blend it with the human genes, and we have something's going to have to keep that entity alive. And whether it's not going to be two gallons of water and 2,000 calories and 200 cubic feet, but you get the idea. So we have to have something that nourishes every living cell that has a sentient potential, I believe, in order to better serve humanity and life on the planet as it evolves. So the 222 is what. Let's get essentially what it takes, and not what it takes for one, but what it takes for everybody, that common denominator. So that's what I've looked to do, is find the common denominator that people can say, hey, that's real, it's science, it's backed up in science, and it's feasible, and it's attainable. So then that's what the 222 I see is something that we really can do as a civilization with our technology and our resources. And we'd be better off if it were to happen. We would gain. It's about time, huh?
Yeah, we're running over time. We've got to head off now to the debate. Hey, thanks, Mr. Holzer. Thanks, Mr. Shoemaker. Thanks to everybody else who turned up. Dan Elton, Kriston, and others who turned up. And thanks again to Lev and Jules. You guys are doing a wonderful job. Thanks for turning up and doing the hard-hitting, big questions, hard-hitting, and putting these people on the back foot. It's good to see. It's always good to see new, innovative ideas. But we have to run. We have to run to the big debate now, and I've been a bad person because I'm running over time, and upstairs is knocking me. So, so I will see you all soon and later, and all those good things.
Thanks for having us.
Enjoy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you all.
More soon.
Hacking back in 2008, creating devices that could be implanted to basically become a cyborg. One of my main focuses has been the area of sensory enhancement and augmentation. That's one area of transhumanism that not a lot of people talk about, but I think it's very important to humanity eventually to be able to expand our senses into different spectrum and be able to interface with different sensations and stimuli to gain new insights and basically new understandings of the world around us. Enhancing our senses like this will not only expand our intuition, it'll also do a lot of cool things for the arts and humanities. You can imagine new forms of art that incorporate infrared and ultraviolet light or different frequencies like that. It's exciting.
My name is Kilma Ferreira. I am the Brazil's foreign ambassador of the US Transhumanist Party. The transhumanism is a humanism. However, it goes beyond. It's a neo-humanism, surpassing Eurocentrism, environmental problems, and worrying about gender issues such as morphological freedom. Using reason, allied to science and technology, we can overcome inequality, our physical and mental limitations, and even the death. This is the reason why I am a transhuman.
I am transhumanist because I strongly value life and intelligence. I think we as intelligent beings deserve better than just vanish into the night. There is no fundamental law in the universe which should stop us from brighter tomorrow. I am transhumanist because I want to improve our cultural software, our ethics system way behind our technological progress. We're still divided by petty imaginary differences. We can save so many lives by just reconsider how we value things. Intelligent species should be free from biological and cultural chains, and with help of science, technology, and rationality, we can radically improve condition of our lives and extend degree of freedom every single intelligent being in the universe.
Hi, my name is Dan Elton, and for many years I was studying physics, and I was just interested in learning about the laws of nature and trying to understand the mysteries in the universe. But a few years ago, I really started to come to grips with our limitations as human beings, both physical and cognitive. And I also became much more aware that there's just an enormous amount of
Okay, look at
going
that.
on
Good to see you, sir.
all around
Excellent.
us.
So we are all Gennady. Looking good, Matthew.
Hi.
You took my advice.
All right. I believe that we are live, so we do need to begin with our first order of business, which is the speaking order. And as has been typical in past debates, I would ask each of you to select a number from 1 to 3. Ben, what number do you prefer?
I'll take number 3.
Ben is 3. Mr. Shacky, what number do you prefer?
I will defer to Matt. Whatever he wants.
I'll take 2.
And I guess I'm
Taylor
number
will have
1.
2, so Mr. will have 1. So I have this random integer generator here on my TI-83 Plus calculator, and I have the first integer is 3, the second integer is 1. That really is all that matters. So therefore, candidate Ben Zion will be the first in our speaking order. Candidate Shacky will be the second in our speaking order, and candidate Taylor will be the third in our speaking order. To our audience observing this debate, thank you very much for joining us today on September 17th, 2019 for the fourth and final virtual debate among the United States Transhumanist Party candidates for the nomination for the office of the United States. We are joined today by candidates Yohanan Ben Zion, Jonathan Shacky, and Matt Taylor. I myself am Gennady Stolyarov II, the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. Unfortunately, while we were scheduled to have candidate REUPLOAD joining us for this debate, he was called to some emergency duties, and therefore he will not be able to attend this evening. We regret this. We benefited from his comments, his insights. Nonetheless, in this debate, we also expect to have some thoughtful interaction on the pitch. With that being said, the format of this debate is going to be the same as the third virtual debate, which you heard on Saturday, September 14th. We have 13 questions that have been crowdsourced from our members. And these questions are going to be asked to the winner. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to address the first 12 questions and 2 minutes to address the 13th question. Candidates are not obligated to use all of their time. If they do not use all of their time on any given question, that time will then be deferred to subsequent speaking slots. And at the end, for concluding remarks, there will not be a specific time allotment. So candidates will have as much time as they had accumulated up to the debate. And then we would go through the rotation and essentially draw down on time until every candidate has either run out of time or decided to relinquish his time.
Mr. Shatke, are you familiar with how to mute your microphone? Because there's a lot of interference.
I believe.
Sorry, Gennady.
Yes, I did that.
Yeah, headphones, not a bad idea with this many folks on the call.
We are getting some feedback and some delayed audio. So I would encourage each candidate who is not speaking to mute their microphone until it is time for that candidate to speak. And now, without further ado, let us launch into our first question for this debate. This question comes from our member Thomas James O'Carroll. Mr. O'Carroll observes that as a candidate for office and as President of the United States, if elected, some of the outcomes you achieve will be based solely on the person that you are and the morals that you hold. Tell us about the person you believe yourself to be and why that strengthens the person who will be remembered by history during your presidency. Candidate Benzion, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Well, yes, sir. Thank you for that question, Thomas O'Carroll. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I've had a chance to share a lot of information and wonderful conversations, but I'll tell you a little bit. I'm Johan Benzion. I'm a career educator, a curriculum developer, and also an entrepreneur. I have a biotech startup. My partners and I are working now on a microbial biosynthesis project therein. We just got that lab set up, starting to do some really interesting work there. Like a lot of people in my generation, I've worked in a lot of different fields, had to do some different kinds of work. But I've been in this world of organizing for quite a while. Many of you know me as the founder and chair of the Arizona Transhumanist Party and ranking officer in some other similar organizations. I believe I can bring an understanding of public policy, particularly as it relates to technology. That is our area of focus. That these other candidates don't always bring to the table, many of them not really seemingly try to bring that to the table. And maybe it's not such an easy thing to sit down and write a platform with a great team that I worked with from the Arizona Transhumanist Party, like the Futurist New Deal for America. So a lot of people in this race, not speaking of anyone at this panel specifically, I haven't been able to really do that. And some of those people have had to rely on a lot of antics, and that alone, it makes for an interesting primary. But that's really not what the job requires. To be the representative of this organization at the national level, you have to understand these policies. You have to be a professional presenter, and you really have to be passionate about the emerging technology that is the reason that we're all here. You have to have a coherent vision, and the Futurist New Deal for America is precisely that. All of us, we've been working over these many years to set the stage for longevity escape velocity. The Futurist New Deal for America was crafted with a universal longevity escape velocity in mind. At first glance, if you look at these e-governance reforms and these economic reforms, you might need a little more information to connect the dots there, but we have to be able to build a society that can sustain the well-being of our citizens in the right way. And we have to do our due diligence there. Sadly, we haven't done that, particularly in recent decades. And we are close enough now. We have the prototypes for things that would allow us to have longer lifespans. So what remains is a broad public consensus. We need to be reaching out to folks in every way that we can, through policy clubs like this one, through your own personal outreach and discussions, and in promoting other businesses and initiatives. We can prepare a path, and we must do it. Radical life extension is closer than you think, so get ready. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Ben Zion. I will say that you were right on time, and therefore we will proceed to candidate Shatke. You have 3 minutes for the first debate question. Candidate Shatke, I believe you are muted.
I am Jonathan Shatke, and I have tried to live my life as a man of honor. I've done everything I can to be honorable in my business and in my personal life. I believe a man of honor is the most important part of being president. You are going to see situations as president where you are not going to have a chance to get all the information. You are going to have to honor your vows to the Constitution and to the people of the United States. And I think that that's the most important part of the job. In order to free your immortality, I want to return the Constitution to prominence in governance. And I think that that's the best way to handle it according to the vow that I would take as president. That's all.
Thank you, candidate Shatke. You have 1 minute, 8 seconds accumulated that will carry over to your future time segments. Next, we will have candidate Matt Taylor give his question in 3 minutes. Candidate Taylor, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Gennady for moderating this debate and to Steele for providing us with the platform to express our views. I strive to follow a personal code of ethics based on the writings of G. Joseph Jock that defines and informs all of my actions and decisions. Number one, I will develop my life for the greater good. This is why I'm here. This is my way to reach the most people, to promote transhumanist ideals, which are to the benefit of all of America and all of the world. Number two, I will place character above riches and concern for others above personal wealth. My decisions are based on what is right, not what will line my pockets. Number three, I will never boast, but cherish humility instead. Our current president likes to lie about his accomplishments, but I will be a humble public servant. Number four, I will speak the truth at all times and forever keep my word. We need to be able to trust our president, who is the mouthpiece of our government. Number five, I will defend those who cannot defend themselves. This tenet directly informs my platform. Number six, I will honor and respect all people and refute sexism, racism, and intolerance in all its guises. I will govern all Americans with fairness and equality. Number seven, I will uphold justice by being fair to all. Number eight, I will be faithful in love and loyal in friendship. 9, I will abhor scandals and gossip, neither partake nor delight in them. 10, I will be generous to the poor and those who need help. I hold that to be true in my personal as well as my public life. 11, I will forgive when asked, that my own mistakes will be forgiven. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong, and to change my mind when new information comes to light. And 12, I will live my life with courtesy and honor from this day forward. That's my personal code of honor, code of ethics. That is my way of life, and it will inform all of my decisions as President of the United States.
Thank you, Candidate Taylor. You spoke for 2 minutes and 25 seconds, so you have 35 seconds over to your future time segments. And thank you to all candidates for your responses to the first question, a highly important question on moral character. Now we proceed to our second question from Denora Delphine, the Director of Admissions and Public Relations for the U.S. Transhumanist Party. Ms. Delphine asks, what do you think people want in a good leader? Which may not necessarily be what you think makes a good leader. So focus on what you consider the public to desire in terms of the attributes of a good leader. Candidate Ben-Zion, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Yes. Well, I believe that our civil society has a blind spot right now about this number one value of the Transhumanist Party, which is life extension. And so this is an interesting question, and I thank Denora for posing it. Life extension and related public health outcomes is the most important goal to people like us. And finding the best way to make that happen, it's, I believe, the primary leadership quality that people are looking for in this organization. I don't know that I would have the precise same association with the Transhumanist Party if radical life extension were not placed as highly in our charter document and organizing principles as it is. This is something that is very, very important to me personally and professionally. And there have been people in the course of this primary who've tried to downplay the role of life extension. And I think this is a mistake. I think that whether the people of this country realize it today or not, that we must carry the standard for this important set of public health goals. And if you are someone who has been trying to deflect from that, if your answer in discussing these core values of our organization generally is yes, but, and then some obfuscation, changing the subject, flipping the script, maybe stop doing that. That's not why we're here. This is a policy club that is intended to advance life extension and techno-futurist outcomes. Those discussions are of great importance to us. And we want to be having positive discussions along those lines and advancing this agenda in the public square. If the subject is broached and super longevity is brought up, initiatives to improve these outcomes is brought up, consider not listing reasons why we shouldn't be doing this or why we should be talking about another subject, but rather support candidates who are transhumanist through and through. In the immortal words of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, we do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And shifting the focus, the many trillions of dollars that we now spend effectively on end-of-life care, emergency services, to preventative measures, longevity-oriented healthcare, it's no easy feat, but it is what we will do in the coming years, and we will save millions of lives and make our public health systems and networks run more efficiently in doing so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Candidate Ben-Zion. You were, again, right on time in your response. We now proceed to Candidate Shaki. Shaki, what do you think people want in a good leader?
I believe people wish a leader to lead, to describe a vision for the country, that they can get behind. And I think the vision of the Transhumanist Party is a strong vision. I think the vision of growth through technology in science, growth through technology in healthcare, and bringing the benefits of that technology to all of the country. I think that's a message that the country would get behind and would be very happy to follow along with. And they don't expect a leader to direct their every step, but to guide them in what will give them a place in the goal. And that is what a leader, and as president, I think that's exactly what we need to do. So I think that's what people are looking for.
Thank you, Candidate Shacky. We will carry 100 seconds over to your future speaking slots. Next, we have Candidate Matt Taylor. Candidate Taylor, in 3 minutes, what do you think people want in a good leader?
Well, with respect to Ms. Delphine, I can only know for sure what qualities I'd like to see in a leader. I think to speculate otherwise is a dangerous road. So allow me to explain what a good leader is to me. A good leader inspires. A good leader has a bold vision and pursues it with tenacity. A good leader listens and gathers information, all the information they can, to make the best decision. A good leader leads by example. They are not afraid to take on the burden, the hard work necessary to pursue their vision and transform it into reality. A good leader surrounds themselves with the best people so that they can efficiently gather information to solve problems and effectively delegate authority. I can be that leader for the Transhumanist Party and for America. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Taylor. We will carry 130 seconds over to your future speaking times. Thank you to all the candidates for your responses to the second question. Now, for the third question, we move to an inquiry from our member Tanvir Ahmed, who asks, what can you do to keep us alive forever? And I like to characterize this as the transhumanist variant of the question, what's in it for me? So, Candidate Ben Zion, what can you do to keep us alive forever?
Yes, that is a question that keeps me up at night. And no, in all seriousness, it's the thing that I think about the most. How can we do this for the people of the United States? How can we set the stage for a universal longevity escape velocity as soon as humanly possible? As I mentioned a few moments ago, the difference between dallying on this could be the difference between many millions of lives lost, and that is a tragic prospect. So we want to do that as soon as humanly possible, and the Futurist New Deal was for America was crafted to better bring about these ends. So Mr. Ahmed, I would say you're a young man, so you're fortunate. You've been born at a lucky time in history. You're doubly fortunate there. So I would say you should take care of yourself, and your chances for remaining preternaturally young and healthy, even beyond the next 5 or 6 decades, might be quite good. But none of us has a crystal ball on this point. But as we know, we are having demonstrated effects of reversing cell death and similar things. Ray Kurzweil says that as of 2020, he believes that he has reversed his own cell death. So next year and beyond, Ray Kurzweil will be getting younger with every passing year rather than older. And that is an exciting prospect if true. Even if there's a kernel of truth to that, it has tremendous public health implications. And there are many ways that we can be better improving outcomes in the public and private sector, some of which we will be discussing in the course of this debate. You know, I just saw a Wall Street Journal article that came out quite recently says that Israel prepares to unleash AI on healthcare. I shared it with quite a number of people. And this is the kind of initiative that I've talked to a great many scientists, a great many medical men and women, a great many AI experts in the course of hosting the Futurist New Deal podcast and other events. And I feel more confident than ever that we are moving in the right direction to be using automation and AI digitalization to create a civilization where we can have prevention, as I mentioned in the previous question, at the center of what we are doing as a society. And I happen to think that many more public initiatives would help with this, but many private initiatives will help with this as well. I agree with many of John Shatke's points on a lot of these things. My feeling is that we must do the thing that works, that saves those lives. And that is always an open question. No, none of us does have that crystal ball. But it is very important that all of you have the courage of your convictions to speak to people about these prototypes, about these life extension technologies, all of the biomedical breakthroughs that might affect you, that might affect your loved ones, that might affect those around you. Speak of it in a positive light. Talk about these prototypes as they exist in reality, not far future considerations. And tell people what's happening now with life extension, what it means for them, what it means for all of us as a civilization. If we're unwilling to do this as a society, we run the very real risk of slowing the pace of biomedical breakthroughs, irrespective of the focus of private or public monies. The onus is on us, and we must avoid shifting focus away from this in research and particularly in public discourse. As we said, there is a lot being done in research, not nearly enough being done in terms of public consensus. I'll bank the remainder of my time. Thank you, Gennady.
Thank you, candidate Ben Zion. You have spoken for 3 minutes and 58 seconds from
I've lost
your
time.
future speaking slot. You will have the opportunity to make up some of that time later on if you so choose. But for now, we will move to candidate Shatke. Candidate Shatke, what can you do to keep us alive forever?
Mortality. There's a lot of things that the government would specifically destroy the ability of doctors to keep you alive. So I would work immediately to remove those impediments to your health care. I would privatize the FDA and make it an advisory body and allow whatever you want to put into your body to be your decision. And with your doctor's consultation and proper examination of the science that is available to you, I think you can do a lot better job than a bureaucrat in caring for yourself. The second thing to do is to remove government funding from healthcare. And the reason for this is because government funding is rent-seeking. A government-funded research project does as little as they possibly can to continue the government funding. They do not ever want to find the actual solution, and that is antithetical to actually getting research and development done. I believe that the profit motive is the way to incentivize companies in order to get new research and development done. And that is not going to happen under grant situations from a government. It's just the incentive structure is exactly backwards for what you get. The third thing is, of course, to expand free government care in a way that doesn't clog the system of people who are seeking private care. and doesn't inflate the prices of private care unnecessarily. So I would remove all of Social Security recipients and Medicare and Medicaid from the private sector and have them be served by the VA. And that way, while we would have to expand the VA in order to care for all those people, it would remove another barrier to getting quality health care at a good price. And I think that's my policy on this.
Thank you, Candidate Shadkey. You spoke for the allotted 3 minutes. So now we proceed to Candidate Matt Taylor. Candidate Taylor, what can you do to keep us alive forever?
Once, immortality was the domain of the alchemists, but today life extension has become a pursuit of mainstream science and medicine. This is the most exciting, most hopeful time in history to be alive. The first immortal has probably already been born. Radical life extension, even to the point of immortality, is the major goal of the transhumanist movement. But before we can reach that goal, we need to extend human life in smaller increments. My plan is to invest in medical research, to streamline the FDA approval process to promote innovation in medicine and medical technology, to change the medical patent process to bring life-saving and life-extending medicines and technologies more quickly and more affordably to the public. Public research through the NIH is also necessary because we need to ensure that life extension does not only help the super rich. You and I and everyone need and deserve to live the longest, highest quality life possible. Furthermore, life extension is worthless without tackling the greatest existential threat to humanity, global climate change. Unless we bring together the greatest minds to solve this problem, and unless we rein in the industries pouring tons of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, and unless we move to renewable energy and nuclear energy, huge regions of our planet are going to become uninhabitable, driving refugees out of these areas. And until we solve this problem, all of the life extension and anti-aging technology will be worthless. But I think that we can solve this, and I think that we will solve this with the right direction and the right leadership. And furthermore, I think that then we'll be able to focus on anti-aging, which I think is the real answer to life extension, because it's all about not just adding years onto the end of the life of a person's life, but we have to improve the quality of their life throughout. And adding those years on into the middle or the earlier part of their life are going to make them more enjoyable and higher quality.
Thank you, Candidate Taylor. We will add 18 seconds to your future speaking times. Next, we proceed to our fourth question from Pavel Ilin, who is the secretary of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. And Mr. Ilin asks, how will you mediate between different groups of interest within transhumanism? How will you have a dialogue between people of different interests, aesthetics, and ethical philosophies? How will you overcome othering and tribalism within transhumanism? So this particular question focuses on dynamics within the transhumanist movement itself. Candidate Ben-Zion, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, it's an interesting question and an important question, and one that has been at the center of my thinking and at the center of the thinking of the architects of the Futurist New Deal from the first. As someone remarked in the pre-show, our esteemed friend and moderator Steele Archer, I believe, remarked, I am somewhat running to the right of myself on certain of these points, particularly as it relates to the reforms in the tax code. And but that is because I feel that it is important to appeal to all of these different groups of diversity of political opinions across the political compass, and also because I think that the life-saving qualities in these reforms, particularly in the federal land dividend originated by Zoltan Istvan, that carried on in the futurist New Deal for America in the form of a basic income for all adults, all adult citizens in this country, is something that we need to do immediately in the near term. It will be the first initiative that we will be working on January 21st, 2021, those first 90 days of the Ben Zion presidency. And that is how important this is. Taking care of our middle class, reviving this country, turning things back onto the right path. That is more important than spending many years bickering with the Charles Kochs and the powers that be as to what their marginal tax rate should or should not be. I was moved by what candidate Taylor said moments ago about climate change. In this context, I'm also reminded of my recent discussions that I've had with Ira Pastor and with a fellow candidate and friend, John Carricks. He and I spoke last night. Some of you have seen that discussion. These are people who are both working on market solutions and working very hard to solve the serious problems of our time, namely public health and life extension and the climate crisis, respectively, of those two. Even though I have focused on certain kind of private sector, public sector initiatives, I don't want to undervalue the good work that people are doing in the private sector. These are real operators that we know in this organization. It's easy to stand at the sidelines and be an armchair philosopher. My advice to those people is, if you are a free market advocate, build something and fix these problems instead of going on and on about these things. The futurist New Deal's regulatory frameworks and other initiatives to deal with these problems. Of this, I would say, again, I do not have this rigid political philosophy. I am in favor of what works. And we have to remain agile in that. And I believe the futurist New Deal for America is the best option of moving forward.
Thank you, candidate Ben Zion. We will subtract 12 seconds from your future speaking times. Next, we proceed to candidate Shackey with regard to the fourth question: how will you mediate between different groups of interest within transhumanism? How will you help overcome tribalism and othering and spark dialogue among individuals of different convictions?
Well, when you have a number of different subgroups in a group, you begin by listening to what everybody is interested in, and then unless that is something that is in clear conflict with the ideals of the group, then you give them a purpose inside your group in order to contribute to the greater of the group's mission. In this case, if I was to become president, I would take the cryonics people and help them to build up a program of cryonics for end-of-life preservation of every American, if they think they could do that. If in terms of the life extension people, I would talk to them about forming a life extension working group within the party, and then you can give each of these people input and strengthen their own position, and yet by combining their efforts, we end up with a greater whole than any of those groups would have come up with acting alone. So we have AI people in the party, and they will have strengths, and they might not care about cryonics, but I don't see why they should be hostile to the cryonics people. There's a lot of different issues to work out. So you allow each person to contribute in their position of strength, and you don't look for them to necessarily contribute in every position of the. And I think that's the best way to work on building a large umbrella that can cover everyone and their needs and desires in transhumanist endeavors.
Thank you, Candidate Shatke. We will carry 41 seconds over to your future speaking slots. Next, we have Candidate Taylor. How will you mediate between different groups of interest within transhumanism, have a dialogue among people of different philosophies, interests, and aesthetics, and help overcome othering and tribalism?
I'm disappointed that there is any othering going on within the transhumanist movement. After all, I think we're all here for the same reasons: to promote the ideals of transhumanism, to pursue the advancement of humanity through technology, through medicine, through science. But it's human nature to align yourself with like-minded individuals and to believe that your own reasoning is superior to others. At its core, the U.S. Transhumanist Party is a democratic organization, and its membership will decide the direction it will take and what values it will promote. But it's important that we bring together representative stakeholders of the various factions within transhumanism in an open dialogue to work through those differences of opinion and to continue to redirect our energy towards the promotion of transhumanism rather than infighting. We believe, I think we agree on what the puzzle will look like when it's been assembled. We're just disagreeing on whether to start in the middle where we recognize that picture or to start on the edge where we can find the border. And I think our similarities should unite us more than our differences divide us. With the right leadership, we can and will overcome our differences.
Thank you, Candidate Taylor. We will carry 87 seconds over to your future speaking slots. Thank you to all the candidates for your responses to our fourth question. And now we proceed to our fifth question, also from Secretary Pavel Ilin, who asks, how will you communicate with the non-transhumanist population and persuade people to become transhumanists and work with a lower future shock level audience? How will you overcome othering and tribalism within the broader society? So while the previous question focused on the transhumanist movement itself, this question focuses on the broader society. Candidate Ben-Zion, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Yes, well, that is a critical question, is it not? Outreach, and I will say again that the main, at the risk of repeating myself, the main aim in the crafting of the Futurist New Deal and in the crafting of the charter documents of the United States Transhumanist Party and other affiliated and similar organizations. We've worked very hard in setting these up, and the idea is that we must be able to do that outreach, and we must prepare people for these technologies, which can sustain a universal longevity escape velocity. And yet, there are quite some number of people out there, casual observers, people who are not reading a lot of emerging biomedicine news on a daily basis, who might not be aware of this and who might find the idea of a preternaturally long lifespan quite discomforting. I believe that we can be very hopeful that these people will soon be turned to our side. I do believe that. I believe that as we are able to provide these services to them, just as a matter of course, through the existing public health channels, that those concerns will quickly fall away, that future shock will quickly abate. Quite recently, I read and shared this wonderful article that I mentioned about digitalization and personalized medicine in Israel. People are beginning to make use of their public health system to do the kinds of things that we've been talking about on the Futures New Deal podcast on a daily basis. And it's the thing that makes me want to be doing this work on behalf of the USTP. It's the thing that makes me want to be doing this work as an interviewer. And we can do this good work for life extension. The proof of concept concerns that many of these people have, or other concerns that might derive from some knee-jerk reactions or provincial thinking, they will soon be replaced by optimism and healthy self-interest. As I've said many times in these interviews, there is something that we could describe as a de facto life extensionist, and that is overwhelmingly the U.S. citizenry. And all we have to do is plant the seed of these ideas in their mind and make these things available to them, as so many people are saying that we will soon be able to do, and our good work will be done. I'll bank the rest of my time.
Thank you, candidate Benzion, for your future speaking slots. So that offsets some of your previous remarks. And next we proceed to candidate Chatke. You have 3 minutes. How will you communicate with the non-transhumanist population, work with a lower future shock level audience, and help overcome othering and tribalism within the broader society?
Yeah, I think most people just don't realize how much of a transhumanist they are. When a person uses a cell phone, they are nascent, cybernetically enhancing their intellect. When a person uses a hip replacement, they are a nascent cyborg. When somebody gets, all these things that are just natural course of action for people these days are nascent transhumanism. When somebody talks to a computer voice for pre-screening of a call to their bank, they are participating with AI. All of these things, they just don't realize that they're a transhumanist, that they're when the business puts that, and they're thinking, I'm just going to do something to save a little cash, that they are hiring an AI in order to do their job. AI is crucial. It is still that first step of AI sentience being part of their business and part of their employees. So I think it's just explaining to them what they are already doing and what they want in their life. And nobody wants to die if they're healthy, right? Nobody says, no. It's who are in pain, either mental pain or physical pain, who decide, now is my time to end. Those people would have a new life. For a life extension, they just don't know. So I think it's merely a case of showing where the natural desires of everybody are expressed under the transhumanist party banner. And that yield on my time.
Thank you, candidate Chatke. We will add 23 seconds to your future speaking. Next, we proceed to candidate Taylor. You have 3 minutes to discuss how you will communicate with the non-transhumanist population, work with a lower future shock level audience, and help overcome othering and tribalism within the broader society.
That division between the left and the right, between the rich and the poor, between the old and the young, between urban and rural communities, that's the greatest problem in American society today. It's led to gridlock and stagnation, and we've even seen outright violence because of that division. However, on some level, all Americans want the outcomes that transhumanism promises. We all want to live longer, healthier, more enjoyable lives. We all want technological advancements to help humanity. We all want a world free of need. On some level, we are all transhumanists. I came to transhumanism because I was drawn to it, because it spoke directly to my beliefs about life extension, about health, directly with my beliefs about the use of technology and the pursuit of science. And I think that we can communicate this with the non-transhumanist community out there. Transhumanism can be the vehicle to achieve the ends that I spoke of: longer lives, world free of need, technological advancements that will help all of us. And so transhumanism can become the scaffolding upon which we rebuild that American cooperative spirit. Transhumanism can be the stitching that that mends the torn fabric of American society. It's just a matter of spreading the word about transhumanism in a positive light and showing the way to the future that we all desire. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Taylor. We will add 45 seconds to your future speaking slots. Now, a lot of our audience members observed some audio interference when Candidate Shackey was speaking, so I'm going to give Candidate Shackey the opportunity to restate at least the salient points of his answer so that we make sure we have it on record.
Oh, terribly sorry about that. Basically, I believe that most of the things that transhumanism wants to accomplish are things that the vast majority of the people and businesses want to accomplish also. AI, additional life of healthy and long life. These are all things that everybody wants. I think that that's the way to do it, is just to explain how what transhumanism is about is what they're about.
Thank you, Candidate Shackey. We heard you much more clearly this time, so we appreciate having those remarks available to our viewers. And that concludes the fifth question. We proceed to the sixth question, also from Secretary Pavel Ilin, this time focusing on the healthcare system. He asks, how will you reform the healthcare system within the United States in order to ensure and accelerate the arrival of life extension therapies and the accessibility of those therapies? Candidate Benzion, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. This is a wonderful question from Pavel. And I would also encourage folks to go back to last week's podcast. I interviewed Pavel Ilin, and he had a lot of interesting things to say on healthcare and also on a basic income. He had even some kind words to say about the federal land dividend. This is something that we must do, and there are manifold approaches and many kinds of initiatives that we can be setting forward to do so. I've mentioned some of these kinds of initiatives in the earlier parts of this discussion, incorporating personalized medicine, using digitalization and automation to shift those many $1 trillion in this United States from effectively triage and end-of-life care to prevention, constant oversight, doing the good work that would allow us to treat aging as a disease. And as Benjamin Franklin famously said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We can put those many trillions of dollars of funds to far better. It's very fine to hear other candidates talk about freedom in the abstract, but the best sort of freedom that we can hope for as transhumanists is the freedom to live well, to live long, and to prosper. And for that, we must be willing to do more than pay empty lip service. We must be willing to take a stand, to build these new policy initiatives, to support these private undertakings and research, and to do the things that might tend to run counter to what is more mainstream. But we must do it because it is right. And in doing so, we will also be able to streamline and lower the costs of medication as they come to market. We will be able to, we must also do something that John Shatke mentioned, but I don't think we can go quite that far, but we must allow for a more robust right to try and allow our people to make use of life extension medications as they become available, also lowering the cost of medications and the time and streamlining those processes. I'll bank the rest
Zion,
of my...
unfortunately, it seems that the live stream is down.
Oh, no.
So I'm not sure what has happened, but...
No, neither am I. I'm here with Ben. I can't see anybody else, though.
I'm still here.
I'm still here, too.
I'm connected.
We're still connected in Skype, but the YouTube live stream is stopped, as far as I can tell. I've tried refreshing it for the last 2 minutes or so.
I don't think it's going on either. I think we have to... I can't see anybody, though. Where have you all gone?
We have to... I'm not...
I'm still here,
sure,
and I can see
something
you guys.
Something happened at your end. So we need to somehow reestablish the connection on your end. And
because Ben and I are connected.
Hey, still here.
Yeah,
you guys are doing great.
So, Steele, can you hear me?
What can I see?
I can hear people. I just can't see anybody.
Okay,